Hello, everyone. I'm glad you're here today. Let's get right to it. Take note, this is July 23rd, 2022. That's going to mean something. I'm bringing you a dream that was given to my dad and given to my daughter, two different dreams on the same day, July 17th, 2022, just a few days ago. I've thought about bringing this to you. I've wondered, and I think both of these dreams go together. I'll bring some kind of an interpretation at the end, and please welcome all interpretations through the Holy Spirit, through any comments below. These dreams, I believe, have to do with some kind of invasion on U.S. soil, probably from China and Russia. I don't know. An invasion, for sure. All right, the first dream, I'll tell you my daughter's dream first, and then I'll tell you my dad's. My daughter is 28 years old. She lives here at home. She's a nurse, an RN, and she is not married. She's single, never has been married. My dad is 81, lives next door to me. I take care of both he and my mom, and he has been dreaming a lot the last 2 years, prophetic dreams. My daughter has had prophetic dreams like this one, which is a little bit apocalyptic. Those are usually the way she dreams. So, here's how this dream began. One more thing, a backup thing. We do not live anywhere near Houston, Texas. We live up in the panhandle of Texas, not near Houston, which is about 800 miles away. All right, that being said, her dream began, it was Christmas time. We were driving to Houston, Texas to visit family, even though we don't really have family in Houston. We were driving there to see my brother-in-law and sister. While we were driving, she looked up and saw this huge jet black plane flying overhead. And she just knew it was an invasion. There were fighter planes attacking it that were the United States military planes. And then she looked at the gas stations we were passing by in the car, and the prices were just falling. They were going from where they're at now all the way down to 23 cents, 16 cents, a gallon. And I looked at her. I was in the car with her, and I said, "It's begun. We're being attacked." And I said, "Don't worry about it. We have exchanged missiles in outer space." We kept driving, and I told her, "This is it. This is war." There was a huge cargo plane in the sky that she knew, it looked like an American plane, but she knew it was filled with the enemy. And then suddenly, the sky, like a swarm of locusts, was filled with United States helicopters. So the sky was just solid helicopters flying. And she just knew it was conflict. It was war. We got to a house that was safe, and she began making guacamole. She didn't do it right, and I told her she needed to go get some more avocados. She called the grocery store to see if there were any avocados. They said, "We are completely out of food." So then she got in the car to go, even though she knew it wasn't very safe outside. I went with her, and so did her grandmother, my mother. The three of us were in the car together. We went to a grocery store, and there were people panic buying, and there wasn't very much food. And what was there was kind of rotten, but there were some avocados that they brought out for us to buy. And when she bought them, she looked at the receipt, and it said $275. The dream switched a little bit, and she was going to go visit a friend. And she was married. And the man she was married to, his name was Mark. The dream went on, but that's the main part of the dream I wanted to bring you that I thought was extremely prophetic. And by the way, the name Mark means warlike. W-A-R-L-I-K-E, warlike. All right, that's the end of her dream. Now then, on that same morning, here is what my dad dreamt. It was the weekend. It was a weekend. He was at a relative's house, a woman. She was going to make him breakfast. He kept feeling like he needed to get back to work, but she said, before you go, I need you to prune my maple tree. And he said, of course. And she said, let me get you a box of tools. So she got him a box of tools. He went into the living room with them, and two people came in, a man and a woman. They sat on the couch, and my dad said, I'm going to prune the maple tree. And he opened up the box, and there was a hydraulic jack in it, and a saw with a square blade. The man said, I'll help you. And my dad said, fine. They went out to the backyard. To his left, there was this maple tree, definitely in need of pruning. My dad began to prune a lower branch because a branch next to the ground growing on the trunk needed to be pruned. It was live. It was not dead. He began to saw through it, and he would get nearly to the end, and it would not break off, nor would it saw through. He had to work and work and work and work and work, and finally it sawed through. The man with him said, come on the other side of this tree, there's a dead branch. My dad was able to cut through that branch like butter. Then there was another live branch, same trouble, but still able to cut the live branch off. And just at that time, 2 solid black cows ran through the yard. And my dad said, oh no, the cows are out. They began to chase the cows, and the cows went to an edge of a cliff and jumped off the cliff. My dad and this man got to the edge and stopped, and the cows had jumped into a raging river below the cliff. My dad was going to jump in and try to get the cows out. The man stopped him and said, no, it's not safe. Come this way. They found another way to the river. My dad got a very large stick to try to guide the cows to the shore. My dad jumped in the river. It was raging water, and he was trying to guide the cows over, who were bobbing. They were bobbing up and down in front of him. The man jumped in and was behind him, and the man began to shout, I'm drowning. I can't keep my head above water. I'm drowning. So my dad tried to keep his head above water. He was trying to get the cows in front of him, and he looked down the river and saw this huge obstruction of debris and branches and just like a wall. And suddenly they were all there, the cows, him, the man, and everything went black. In his dream, he described it like a portal. He didn't die. It wasn't pain. It wasn't fear. It just stopped. Everything stopped. And then he was on the shore of the river, all by himself. And he was just sitting there. And he looked to his right, and out of the river came a herd of red and white Hereford cattle. They just started climbing out of the river. Lots of them. And right behind the red and white Herefords came a black cow with a white face. And that was the end of his dream. I am open to anybody's interpretation to these dreams, but in talking as a family about them, here is what we have. This is the best we can do with these dreams. One, we do think they're prophetic because I had been praying, Father, show us what's coming. Not in a fearful way or not in a way, but please, Father, will you tell us what's about to happen? And then both my daughter and my father dreamt dreams like this on the same night. Okay, so we believe they're prophetic. Second thing is, well, I'm not going to number these. I'll say second thing, and then I'll probably say eighth thing. Who knows? But anyway, I'll just. The next thing is, in talking about it, we do think what my daughter dreamt about the invasion parallels to the turbulence that my dad experienced in the river. That period of time, we are going to enter a period of time that is turbulent. An invasion from a foreign country, that may very well be what it is. Spiritual invasion, that may be what it is. I don't know. But that because my dad was delivered out of the river, and by the way, the word Hereford means a safe place to cross a river. We live where there's cattle. There's more cattle up where we live than there are people. So we understand cattle. Hereford, the word Hereford means safe place to cross the river. So I believe God is going to create safety for us, even in the midst of the turbulence. And that was the overall message of hope. But that things are going to get pretty rough. I also think that my dad is very interesting. He dreamt about a maple tree, and my daughter dreamt about an avocado. Maple is in Canada, the maple tree, the maple leaf, and avocados are Mexican, or from Mexico. So that's something to note. It's a data point. It's a piece of the puzzle. It's a piece of the message. Overall, I don't think God gives us dreams that make us scared. I always think there's hope and assurance. So that's why I think these dreams are so important to pay attention to. If you have anything that strikes you in the Holy Spirit, please let us know, comment, and let's talk about it.
Some of the prophecies of Our Lady of the Roses are fast becoming a reality. On March 26, 1983, Our Lady warned, Russia plans to invade the United States with missiles. The term missile is commonly associated with the much larger ICBMs and submarine ballistic nuclear missiles. Yet if the term also refers to portable nuclear devices and briefcase nukes, this prophecy of Our Lady now appears to be explained and approaching fulfillment. Threats of nuclear terrorism. One of the latest articles, April 11, 2010, Obama says nuclear terrorism is the single biggest threat to U.S. in the past. There were threats from terrorist bin Laden, and growing evidence that suitcase nukes are in the hands of terrorist organizations, may indicate the approaching fulfillment of two Our Lady of the Roses prophecies that Russia plans to invade the United States with missiles, and a prophetic vision given to Veronica on March 26, 1983 of a nuclear warhead in an abandoned New York City subway tunnel. KGB defector testifies before Congress in a congressional hearing in 2000. KGB defector Colonel Stanislav Lunev testified to the presence of small briefcase-sized nuclear devices that have been smuggled into the United States, awaiting a future date when they will be used by KGB agents. Following RXEPs as taken from Newsmax, January 25, 2000, Los Angeles, Stanislav Lunev, the highest-ranking Soviet spy ever to defect, warned members of Congress Monday a preemptive nuclear strike by Russia on American soil is a real possibility. At a House Committee on Government Reform hearing here, The one-time colonel in Soviet and then Russian Federation military intelligence, gave a chilling presentation of his country's Cold War plans to defeat the United States. Under federal witness protection, Lunev was escorted into the hearing room with a black bag covering his head. From behind a screen to shield him from the view of the audience, Lunev testified Soviet generals had designed a special plan for the future war against America and its allies in which Special Operation Forces commanders would come to the United States and other NATO countries a few days, maybe even a few hours before actual war. Lunev said one of his espionage assignments had been to scout drop sites for weapons caches.
Thank you everybody for joining me at Evolutionary Energy Arts. And I wanted to share with you a series of dreams that I had. And part of the reason why I feel so compelled to analyze and overanalyze things is it's basically I'm trying to figure out the dreams that have come to me going back to 1985, I believe. It could have been 84, but I think it was 85 was the first time I had a dream about things that could happen, and it felt like it was kind of a warning dream. And I'll stay right off the bat that I do believe that there are multiple timelines available to us, that we could jump into other timelines. Those of you that are familiar with quantum physics and the breaking science that we're now learning about the nature of reality, there is the thought that there is all these parallel timelines possible because we live in a multidimensional universe with just a myriad of different possibilities in front of us. And it's all up to us, to shift our focus to the right areas and to change, potentially negative outcomes into positive ones. But these dreams were very, very vivid and very clear. And they showed the same thing happening over the years. And I just got different glimpses of it from, I believe, slightly different perspectives of what could happen. And so when I first had the dream, it was in my first apartment, and it was 84, 85-ish, and I was living in Connecticut. And the thing that really hit me was it felt like I jumped 30, 40 years in the future. It was a much more advanced way of life, but not Jetsons-ish or anything, but just things were different than they were in the 80s, which obviously they are now. The thing that hit me about this, as I try to get to the right picture, the first thing that hit me was the fact that there were these things in the sky, and they just monitored everybody. And to me, they looked like giant eyes. They were roundish. It sort of looked a lot like this picture. And they just basically watched everything that everybody did. Every move that everybody made was being monitored and was watched. And to me, they looked a lot like this. They were basically eyes in the sky, and that's what I felt they were. So they were a means to watch us. Now, I don't know what type of technology this was, or even if it was technology, in some sense they almost felt kind of alive in my dream. But you got to realize this is going way back to the time before drones and things like that. And so it was just that there were these gigantic eyes everywhere watching everything. So every move anybody made at pretty much any time, you were being watched, constantly surveilled. And I don't know who was doing this, but it felt very ominous. And it felt like there was just no privacy. There was no such thing as privacy because everybody was constantly watched, constantly monitored. And again, this is going back into the mid 80s. And as drones have become popular, it's clicked with me that maybe what I was seeing was drones and the use of drones, but the use of drones to a degree where you're going to walk on a street and you're going to see a handful of them on every street. They're going to be hovering, just like, maybe 30 feet in the air, and just monitoring intersections, going, and if somebody is of note or interest, they'll follow you as they watch where you go from place to place. And they're everywhere, and we know there's cameras everywhere in our societies now. There's cameras, pretty much at every stoplight. They're everywhere. And so everything is being watched all the time. And this was the first thing that hit me from those dreams. It was just the fact that there was zero privacy. This was complete Big Brother system. Yet, I couldn't tell who was controlling these things. This little graph from the Wall Street Journal shows the level of concern about drones monitoring people's daily activities. And, we could see how the concern is pretty concerned, especially when it comes to our home. We almost accept now, like when we're in the workplace, we're going to get monitored. We pretty much accept when we're out in public, okay, we're going to be watched, If I pick my nose or scratch my butt, it's going to be on camera somewhere. Whatever happens, we're being watched. But we don't want to be watched at home, which is something that is happening now too. And it's only going to increase. But the dreams weren't just about that. The most ominous thing that I saw, and every time they came back, and I've had them definitely 4 times, and I suspect I've seen them more over the years. One of the things that I see is there is so many lights in the sky. I'm looking up and it's just past twilight, getting dark, and I see the sky and there is countless lights in the sky, and I don't know if they're meteors, I don't know if they're alien ships. I'm not sure what they are, but there is so many lights that there's thousands of them visible in the sky. And the thought that hits me is there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. There's just no escaping from whatever this is that's coming in. And that's the initial thing I see, is just so many lights, it just boggles the mind that everybody's in a stupor. Everybody is just walking around with their jaws wide open and eyes wide open, and just kind of dazed, looking at that, knowing that there's so many of them, there's nowhere for you to go. It's overwhelming. There's so many of them. And there's just too many to count. And it's just this sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach that is kind of like that. When you're faced with something that you just can't believe, and it's potentially so scary that you're just kind of in shock. And so every direction you look, there's these lights, they're everywhere. And then I see the ocean and the sky. I'm able to see the ocean as well as the sky, and I see the lights in the sky, and then I see in the ocean. And in the ocean, there are ships, and I can make out that they are ships. And some of them look like those giant eyes that are watching everybody. And they're all coming towards the land. So they're not only in the sky, but they're also in the ocean. And they're also coming to the land from both above in the sky and from below in the ocean. And I'm able to see right into the ocean in the dream, all the way on down to the depths, and it's all clear. And so I could see that there are countless amounts of them in the ocean, thousands of them in the ocean, thousands in the sky. And it's really a scary, scary feeling. And in these visions, they start to take form, and they don't look like military aircraft. They don't look like, aircraft carriers and destroyers and battleships and military helicopters, or MiGs or F-22s, anything like that. They look more like UFOs, more like saucers and a variety of other shapes. And they seem to be kind of crystalline or shiny, metallic coming. And there's, again, so many of them, it's just boggling the mind. And they're in the water, they're everywhere. They're just everywhere. And so then it hits me that it feels more like an alien invasion type thing. And it feels extremely surreal and very, very scary. And this dream has happened, as I said, at least 4 times that I can clearly remember. And it seems to happen in pretty big intervals, like 7 to 10 years. And it's very disconcerting. And there's different details that come. In other parts of it, though, I do see troops, and I see helicopters especially, and I see parachutes being dropped. So there's also troops involved, and they're dropping soldiers, and there's military mobilization going on, and it feels like the United States is being invaded. And I could see them. I could see the troops, and I could feel that I'm in where I am. It's warm. And at that time, the very first time, I was living up in Connecticut, and then once I had the dream in South Carolina, that was the clearest. And where I'm seeing the troops, it's very warm. It feels like it's somewhere in the southeastern United States, where I currently am living. And I could see them clearly being dropped from helicopters en masse, and it's cloudy, and there's like helicopters that pop into these big dark rain clouds that you get down south, and then pop out, and different troops dropping down, and people are running, and people are becoming refugees, and they're moving away from the coast, and they're moving up, especially from South Florida, because it feels like South Florida is a place where troops have landed, and not ours. So here it feels like the United States is being invaded. The only thing that more the logical mind is saying is basically Russia, China, and others are the ones doing it. But I didn't see those troops, but I knew and kept hearing from people that they've landed, down around Miami and down around the Everglades, and they're moving on up, and there's a huge refugee swell of people rushing away from that area and heading up northward, trying to get up away from where the troops have landed. And I also feel in those dreams there's troops coming in from like Mexico, as well as coming down from Alaska and Canada into the United States as well. And people are just in a panic, and people are just running and becoming refugees, and en masse. And I'm in there with them, and I'm helping carry this older man who had 2 feet blown off from something, some sort of explosion. So he's missing his feet, and I know we have to climb some steps, and it's really hard getting them up the steps wherever we are, and that was something that stuck with me. And so it's that part's always stuck with me. And then at that point, I remember hearing people say they're only 20 miles behind us and heading this way. So it was a feeling of, well, it's no way we're gonna outrun them with this huge refugee population. And it's just it was a very scary thing and scary dream. So definitely felt that troops were coming in from Alaska, Canada, coming down. Definitely felt troops coming in from Mexico and from Florida. And the first time I had this dream was before I did like research into all the prophecies of what's going to happen, like with Washington's vision. I had read the Bible at that point already many times, but I never really connected and thought about the fact that the United States could be Babylon the Great. And while I'm not a total Bible believer in the traditional sense, I do think there's a lot of things in there, a lot of things hidden, and there's a lot of things that are, just some things that you can't ignore. So when I read about Washington's vision, it hit me that, wow, that was just like what I had dreamed about and I've been dreaming about. Very, very similar. And then so many people have had these dreams. So many people have seen these things that it just feels like it's only a matter of time. And that may or may not be, because I do believe we have the power to shift reality. As we know from quantum physics, it's the observer that creates the world, basically. It's all by observation. And Buddha and his enlightenment, it was all about realizing that this is Maya. This world is Maya, which Maya is the word that means illusion. It's all really an illusion. We're living, as scientists now believe, in a computer simulation of sorts, a hologram, a reflection of a 2D reality that is actually much more real than this 3D reality. And so we could shift timelines, we could shift reality if enough people get together and really put their energy into it and their focus into it. And I think a lot of these visions are warnings that, we have to wake up and realize, that we've been manipulated and we were being manipulated, and we are being manipulated so it will create one particular outcome that the negative forces that are guiding and steering the world want to happen. So we have to wake up and get out of that particular outcome. And it's like I've always known at some point it was going to be very dangerous living in the United States. And at some point you'd need to leave. That was the feeling I've had. And then when 9/11 happened, it made it feel just 10 times more. And so I almost feel like it's amazing that we've gone this long without anything major happening. But these dreams, they've just been something that's been with me, for the last 32 years. And it's something that comes back and I get a little bit more detail each time. But I do believe in them. And I do, because I've kept track of my dreams since I was 12 years old, writing them down in dream journals. And that's something that's a good practice for everybody to do, because you will get insights and you will be amazed. And in 2006, I believe it was, I was just felt compelled to go through one of my own old dream journals. And I was just thumbing through it, and then I came across this dream. And as I read the dream that I had written down, it really hit me, because I could see this dream all of a sudden so clear. And it was a dream I had totally forgotten about that I had 6 years previous. And in that dream, I was standing inside a very, very big office building, and I saw something come and ram into the building and realized it was an airplane. And then it just caused this huge explosion, and I could see the flames billowing through the building. And then there was a second one that happened, and a second impact. And then I recognized what the buildings were, and that they were on fire. And I wrote all this down in my dream journal, but had totally forgotten about the dream until I was reading it again in 2006. So this is, 6 years after I had the dream that I am, reading about it, and I had completely forgotten about this dream, 100% forgotten about it. But then as I'm reading it, it became so vibrant, like I was having it again, and I could see clearly what it was. And clearly it was 9/11 with the World Trade Centers. And when I looked at the date of the dream, it was September 11th, 2000. It was exactly 1 year before it happened. And that blew my mind because I didn't remember having this dream until 2006 when I read it in my dream journal. And so that made me realize, wow, that was a message. And if you've read anything about remote viewing, you know that this is very, very possible. The government employs people to do this. I've definitely been a very strong intuitive empath all my life, and I've cultivated it through meditation since childhood. So we could all develop these abilities.